Revolutionary greetings, comrades. It's a red Sunday, the 1st of September 2024. We are discussing the role of the diaspora in the electoral process in Zimbabwe. In the previous videos, we've spoken of the need for Zimbabweans to participate in the electoral process. We've spoken about the contributions that Zimbabweans make in the Zimbabwean economy, the remittances, the construction of clinics, the construction of schools in communities. The diaspora organize themselves in communities. We've seen in some communities where they are building classrooms. In some cases, starting new schools altogether, building clinics. You can go to areas like Ikezi, Bulilima, Mangwe, in Matabele South. You will see how the diaspora are contributing. We are seeing modern homes in rural communities where diasporans are contributing or are building. We have seen them putting solar panels, drilling boreholes. So there's a lot of contributions that the diaspora is making. They are buying residential stands in the cities and towns, building homes, providing employment to those that are in the building industry. But what is missing is the diaspora to participate in the electoral process. Currently, a person that is outside the country cannot cast their vote where they are. You can only travel to Zimbabwe, register to vote. Then on the voting day, you must be in your ward where you are registered to vote. So there's no way that someone that is in Hillbrow, is in Khayelitsha, is in East London can cast their votes, or in Gaborone, or in Lilongwe, or in Lusaka. You need to go to Zimbabwe to cast the vote. And this is why it is critical that we mobilize Zimbabweans in the diaspora to participate in the electoral system. Firstly, because we are citizens of Zimbabwe. We have a right to participate in the electoral process. Secondly, we contribute to the economy of Zimbabwe as we have already outlined. But what is lacking is that we do not have a right where we are to choose a leader of our choice. But of course, we know that it would be naive for anyone to think that the diaspora vote is an automatic vote for the opposition. If you think along those lines, will be very naive. We have seen many ZANU-PF members, ZANU-PF supporters are in South Africa, as an example. ZANU-PF has structures, political structures in South Africa. I always talk to ZANU-PF supporters, those that are on Zimbabwe exemption permits. Some are not documented, asking how they can be documented. I remember at some point I found myself addressing ZANU-PF supporters in Pretoria on the question of ZEP. So a diaspora vote is not necessarily an opposition vote. So when we talk of a diaspora vote, if you think that ZANU-PF will reject the diaspora vote on the basis that it is a diaspora vote, you'll be mistaken. And if you think that the opposition will simply support the diaspora vote because every vote in the diaspora is an opposition vote, again you are mistaken. And of course, there are comrades who are saying, but why pay so much attention to the diaspora vote? Why do you want to organize the diasporians? Why not organize people according to their trade, whether they are hawkers, they are in the trade unions and so forth and so forth. Why specifically the diaspora vote? While what comrades are suggesting is what should be happening in Zimbabwe, to organize people in their residents' associations, in their trade unions, in their rural organizations, in their youth organizations. But our experience in the diaspora is that the one thing that unites the people of Zimbabwe is documentation. We have been, for the last 10 years or so, we have been working with the COSATO, we have been working with other trade unions to say, let's have migrants join trade unions. Maybe we have not done enough on that score. We might not have done enough. But there's little appetite from the Zimbabweans who are in the diaspora. Some, they will tell you about how they were treated by trade union and so forth. So we accept that we have not done enough to convince the Zimbabweans to join trade unions. But one thing that unites them is the issue of documentation. So if you check, even in this channel, we spend so much time talking about documentation. In most of our social media platforms, we talk about documentation. If we call a physical meeting on documentation, it is going to be full. If you call a meeting to give tips on how to join a trade unions or on how to participate in the political process, few people turn up. It's a reality. This is why it's important that we start the diaspora campaign now, not on the eve of the election. And of course, Comrade Lenin, he guides us. He advises us that we should not boycott the bourgeoisie election. While our mission as communists and the workers is to overthrow the capitalist mode of production, is to overthrow the bourgeoisie class, while our mission is for dictatorship of the proletariat. But this can only be achieved once we raise the class consciousness of the workers themselves. In 2019, at our first Congress, we said that socialism is not about pressing a button. It requires political work. It requires political education. It requires us to raise class consciousness amongst the working people. In this case, amongst the migrant community of Zimbabwean origin that are in South Africa, that it is important for Zimbabweans themselves in South Africa and in other countries to participate in the electoral process. And the question that has always been asked was, if we participate in the electoral process, how do we participate? Who represents us? Because the argument is, even argument that is in Zimbabwe, is to say, Comrade Mabena, you live in Johannesburg. You want to come to Umzingwane constituency or Ngai constituency or Chipinge constituency or Masringo Urban constituency. Elect a member of parliament. You go back to Joburg. You yourself stay in Joburg, Cape Town, Nelspruit. We in Masringo Urban are the people that interact with this MP councillor on a daily basis. While yourselves are in Nairobi, are in Lusaka, and everywhere else. You come to Zimbabwe, you want to elect an MP that will not represent our interest in the constituency. You want to elect a councillor that will not represent our interest, because the argument, which is a valid argument, is to say you flock on election day. You vote for a councillor whom we do not like, you have the numbers. You vote for an MP whom we do not like, you go back to where we are based. And then we suffer for the next 5 years. So I'm making an amendment to this proposal, that when we talk of a diaspora vote, it is not about us in the diaspora. For instance, I come from Umzingwane constituency in Matebele South. I vote in Ward 4 at Mbizingwe Primary School. That's why I'm registered to vote. So if the diaspora vote sails through, it means I have to transfer my vote if I want to vote in the diaspora. Transfer my vote and vote at the consulate in Johannesburg or wherever the polling stations will be, and not vote in my constituency. Then the question arises, if I then vote in Johannesburg, do I vote for an MP in Umzingwane district or what? This is what we'll be discussing in the second video, so that there's clarity on these issues. So look out for the next video because we'll be giving clarity on who or how and why we'll be voting in the diaspora if it succeeds, so that we do not find ourselves at loggerheads with those Zimbabweans that are back home who accuse us of always coming, vote for an MP or a councillor who does not represent the interests of the constituents. Please write your comments in the comment section, like this video, subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you're on TikTok, please do follow us. Amandla Comrades.